Today we are making my latest quilt pattern called Sticks. Sticks is actually a perfect quilt pattern to build up your skills, especially if you are a beginner quilter. Now, although you can whip up this quilt top within a day, it can be challenging for a beginner, which is why I'm going to be walking you through this process here today. Now, first up, you are going to need a jelly roll. A jelly roll is a fabric pre-cut that is 2.5-inch strips by width of fabric. Now, I will be using Hibiscus from Riley Blake Fabrics. Please note that if you are making the throw size, you will need 42 jelly roll strips, which in this case, Riley Blake Fabrics only has 40 within their bundle. So what I personally did was cut 2 extra strips off of my backing fabric. And just a friendly reminder, just because some manufacturers do have different counts for their pre-cut. So just be aware when you are purchasing a pre-cut. Now, I will still keep all of my jelly roll strips folded in half to make the cutting process go a lot quicker. And I'm also going to be stacking a few strips on top of each other as well. While I am doing so, let me inform you that this quilt pattern is available as a free PDF. Link for it will be down below in the description, and it is available in 5 quilt sizes: baby, throw, twin, queen, and king. Now, once I have a good stack of strips together, I am going to cut a 2.5-inch by 18.5-inch rectangles, which brings me to my very first partnership, which I am very glad to be a part of. I have been using these new titanium rotary cutter blades from the Fabric Hut, which I will have a link for down below in the description, as well as a pinned comment on today's video. And as you just saw, these blades are cutting through a comfortable stack of fabrics that are also folded in half, just like butter. Now, I've actually have been cutting everything for 2 king-size quilts and a few more projects that you will be seeing shortly within the next few days and weeks coming along. So I have been putting these blades to work, and I can say I am very, very impressed. Usually I have to change out my blades about 3 times a month with the amount of fabric cutting that I've been doing, and that is also because I am a huge stickler for always having a sharp blade. Dull blades can cause accidents, which many people do not realize, and using a titanium rotary cutter blades, these are lasting a lot longer. But anyways, these blades are once again from the Fabric Hut. Links will be down below in the description, and thank you for partnering with me in today's video. You will be seeing me use these around quite frequently. Now, once you have all of your jelly roll strips cut, go ahead and select 4 different prints. Start by sewing 2 strip sets together with a 1/4-inch seam allowance. And here is where the skill building comes into play. Since these are long and skinny strips, when you go to iron your seams open or to one side, whichever you prefer, I highly, highly recommend that you finger press your strip sets open first. Then when you go to iron, do not drag your iron over it, because if you see right there, the strip set will stretch. And if you keep doing this, your strip sets will get wonky and also distorted looking. Sewing this quilt together is the easy part, but ironing it is what makes this quilt pattern challenging and also a really good skill builder. Now, so what I like to do once again is finger press your seams open gently, then iron by lifting and pressing your iron down. And please be careful. Do not burn your fingers, especially if you are someone who likes to use steam while ironing. If you use steam, I highly recommend instead by spraying your fabric strips with a water bottle and then iron with a dry iron instead. You will kind of get that same effect. But anyways, here are my 2 strip sets ironed. And although I am making 1 block at a time for you all today, what I highly recommend is sit at your sewing machine and with your huge stack of 2.5-inch by 18.5-inch rectangles, place them in a pile really close by, and then start by taking 2 rectangles and sew them together like how we just did. Then once you get to the end of that strip set, select two more rectangles, and just keep on sewing them together one right after the other on your sewing machine. What this is called is chain piecing, which means you're just sewing them back to back together and you're not breaking thread. And doing so, you will have this quilt made in no time. So there's another quick tip if you are new to quilting. But back to building our quilt block, we are now going to take these two strip sets and we are going to sew them together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And here we have our quilt block. You are going to repeat these steps until you've made enough blocks for the quilt size that you are making. And here are all of my quilt blocks put together, and I wanted to show you the importance, once again, I cannot stress this enough, of ironing your strips open carefully, because if you'll see right here, sometimes they will get shorter too. And yes, I did measure to make sure I did cut the rectangles out correctly, but if you're not too careful, this is something else that can also occur. But no biggie, I'm just going to put this section on the outer edge of the quilt while we build the layout, and then I'll square it up after it gets quilted later. But all you're going to do is lay your blocks out using the layout on the PDF pattern, and with the quilt size you are making, you are just going to sew your blocks together to form rows, and lastly sew your rows together to complete your quilt top. And here is my completed quilt top. And once again, even though this is such a super easy quilt pattern to make and whip up within a day, it is also a great skill builder, because next month I have a new quilt pattern that will be using a lot of strip sets but in a much smaller scale, which means it will be a bit more challenging. Plus, you also have all these seams right here where you'll need to do your best to try and match them up. But for this quilt, I will be using this fabric right here for the backing, and once again using glide thread in rose pink, since its sister quilts are pretty much identical. Plus, this thread color is actually going to blend in really nicely with this backing fabric since it's on the busier side of the print. And here it is, all quilted out and bound. Lyre is a quick edge-to-edge quilt pattern, and it's on a larger scale. I personally didn't want to choose something that was too busy, and since this quilt is literally a bunch of strips sewn together, I wanted to have a curvy, fun, whimsical quilt pattern. And here is the backing of the quilt, which, as you can see, you cannot see the quilting on the back of it because it blended in very nicely. But here we have it. I do hope you have enjoyed today's quilt pattern called Sticks. If you could, please take a moment to hit that like and subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can be notified for your next amazing project.